I think to save anybody out there that's looking for a home, to save yourself some time, I think define where you want to be and stick to it, right? Like if you say, hey, I want to be within 5 miles of this point, or I want to be in this community, or I want to be in this neighborhood, or hey, I love to golf, I want to be in the golf course, or hey, or near the golf course, or hey, I love the water, I want to be in the lake. You're the physical geography, like the point that you're on, the land is so much more valuable than whatever structure's on it, to me, right? I buy like sunsets, sunrises, moonsets. I buy views. I buy things that if they're going to change, they're not likely going to change in my lifetime.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for, right?
So it's been a minute, dude. What's going on in businessman world?
Man, so I guess most recently, the reason I'm late today is I just finished a walkthrough. I just bought a house, actually, not too far from here.
Nice.
So we'll see. But, just been busy, man. I think what happened, everybody at the end of the year, well, at least for me, I think what happens at the end of the year is I'm trying to get things done so I don't carry them into the next year.
Yeah.
I think most of the rest of the world is like, oh, it's December. I think we'll just take the rest of the month off. You know, like
call it a year.
Really, it starts around Thanksgiving. Everybody kind of checks out. You got, that whole week people have got different family members they've got to be with. And then, they don't really get back to it. And then, at least 2 weeks of December is Christmas events or family events or things tied to Christmas or the holidays in general. And then New Year's. So it's like, between those things, there's not a whole lot that gets done. Most of corporate America is on vacation. On the law firms, so it's like, I'm not complaining, but I had this mindset of, hey, I'm going to get all these things done before the year's end. And
does that come from like a place of anxiety, or is it just like,
I just didn't want
to get her done?
I just didn't want to carry it into the next year.
Yeah.
But then I realized why you have all these New Year's resolutions. The New Year's resolutions, I think I've got a new spin on this, is the people that have realized they've been putting everything off for 5 weeks and or longer. And they've put everything on hold, and they go, okay, now it's time to get these things done.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of got to experience that firsthand, because basically everything that I was trying to get done and pushing to get done that didn't get done, not the first week, but end of the first week to the second week of January, boom, everything out of the woodwork, everybody started working again. So I've just been really busy the last 20 days.
Yeah. Why the new house? Yeah.
Okay, so without putting too much info out there,
of course.
But I've got a lifelong friend of mine that needs a home that's in the area, and he actually owns other properties and things with us. But technically, he does not have a personal home, so you can call him homeless. Maybe we can like superimpose a picture.
Yeah, that's like a different level of irony. Like you own, but
yeah.
So lay your head.
So we're gonna have to call him out. So Mike Bennett, we're gonna call him out. Maybe we can like superimpose.
We got you, Mike.
We got you. I'm gonna superimpose a little picture of him like somewhere over here, over there, or maybe sitting in one of these chairs. We'll put him on the thumbnail for the thing. And Mike Bennett is homeless, right? And I'll send it out to all the high school friends he had and all that.
We'll do a Mr. Beast thing. We'll give him a house.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. I'm gonna give him a house that comes with payments.
Yeah, that's what happens. People get cars; they got to pay like taxes and stuff.
Yeah. Well, he's gonna become an indentured servant. It'll be okay. It's okay, Mike.
Serf.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
That's okay, man. You do it in other places. It's coming back in style,
Duke
I think.
Daniel, yeah.
But no, so I'm not really interested in flipping. It's not something I actively do. I've done it. I don't. I just don't like it because a flip. If you buy a property, let's talk about a basic flip. You buy a property with the idea of just selling it. You've got this position you can take that's more of like a wholesale position. You find a really good deal on something, but you're not really interested, so you just kind of tie the deal up and then. You hold it long enough to sell it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe you sell it on the spot. Maybe you do a dual closing the same day. And then there's another version where you buy it and you see it and you have to add value. You got to come in and you upfit it and bring it up to, up to what it should be to bring the market price. And then you can sell it and make the spread, right? Well, that becomes even more dangerous in a market that's falling, like the one we're in. That's even if the market adjusts by.
It's not good right now.
No, if the market adjusts by 10 or 15% or 20%. And most flips, let's say that they've got a small margin, if you're not careful and you don't move it quick enough, you could end up if you're lucky, breaking even or losing money. So it's kind of like catching a falling dagger at this point.
Yeah, so like what's the game plan with like you got like people in the property business, all that kind of stuff. Property business is probably a better word for that. But people who are in this type of business, I mean, like with this market right now, what's the game plan right now? Is it duck and cover? Is it scrambling or?
I think there's so many different ways to be in real estate, I guess. So I think people that are in the wholesale business or flipping business, I think there are a lot of people that are kind of tapping the brakes a little bit. If they don't feel good about a property, whereas in the past they probably would have just done it anyway, now they're kind of taking a break, and you're already starting to see it. You know, if the most you were willing to spend on something was $300, maybe now it's $275, $270, $265. You know, like you're starting to see, and that's really where it starts. If you're talking about, if you're getting a turnkey product, let's say that you're a traditional home buyer and you're buying something that's being publicly advertised for sale.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to look at houses right now.
You're paying retail, right? I mean, that's just the way it works, right? So you're not wanting to buy something that you have to come in and gut and fix and solve problems.
Well,
right?
My wife would love that.
True,
That's what she wants to
do.
So,
true. I remember that. We should have your wife on.
Yeah, she has a lot to talk about. So I don't mean that in a bad way, but that sounded like a dig. My wife. But yeah, she's
women.
Yeah, she wants to get something because I mean she's on historic houses and not remodeling, but kind of refurbishing, I guess.
Yeah.
Like kind of making old new and like kind of making it last a little longer.
Yeah, no, I like that. There's ways to do that to where you preserve it and kind of the style of the time, but also bring it in
restoration. That's
right,
the word I was looking
right,
for.
yeah.
So is that not a good time to do that right now?
I think anytime. So I've got a neighbor that. So you were saying, you know, what are people doing right now in real estate? I think it depends on where you're at in real estate and what is it you specifically do. I think at minimum everybody's tapping the brakes. I'm paying cash for the house, so it doesn't, you know, financing and interest and all that stuff doesn't really affect me.
Yeah.
But when I go to sell it, it affects me because the person that's buying it is probably not paying cash, right? There's a very large.
Is there a benefit to that, or does it even matter? Like, why pay with cash?
So the really quick version, right, of cash becomes very valuable at this point because I can. So let's say that a year ago you could have bought a $400,000 house at a 3% interest rate.
Yeah.
And let's just dumb math. This is probably wrong, but let's just say that $400,000 house at 3% after taxes and insurance is $2,400 a month. Okay. So a year ago, and then again, it's fictitious. I'm not using a calculator, so you know these numbers may be wrong. But $400,000 house, 3%, taxes, insurance, etc. Your monthly payment, $2,400 a month. Okay. Today, that same $400,000 house, because the interest rates have went up, you know, in some cases 200, 250%.
Yeah.
Is now going to run you maybe say $3,700 a month, right?
Yeah.
So now it takes more money to buy the exact same house. Well, people are payment buyers. Just like they buy cars, they buy houses. They don't really care as much what they pay for the home. What they care about is can they afford the monthly payment, right? And I hate to say that, but that's really how America buys homes. Same way they buy their cars. They're closed on monthly payment.
Yeah, anybody who does that is dumb. I would never.
No, man, it's the way it works. It's. I mean, and it's not. I'm not dogging anybody. That's how they make their decision.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I told you the house is $400,000 and it's $3,700 a month, your budget's $2,500. You've got to buy a house that equals a $2,500 payment. So now what's happened? People's income didn't go up. Right now, their budget was $2,500. It's probably still $2,500 if it's not went down.
Yeah.
Which means one of two things, right? They've got to buy less house, or the price of the house has to come down, right? So what you're starting to see is the prices of homes soften. You're starting to see a correction. I don't think a crash, a correction, because things were just ballooning up at a tremendous pace.
I remember
breaking
that.
record after record after record. And so you're seeing a softening in those markets. You're seeing some price correction where it's going back down to reality. And I think you're also starting to see pre-pandemic, it was nothing for a home to sit on the market 60 or 90 days, right? It was normal. You know,
that sounds so foreign now.
Right. Yeah. So people have gotten so used to, they list something in day one, it's got 27 offers, you know, so, you know, things going back to that is not the end of the world, but there's going to be an adjustment period, right? Now things where I would say, oh, they were going under contract in a day, now they're sitting for 2 and 3 weeks, 30 days, right? It is taking some time. Things are sitting on the market because a lot of people had their homes priced very aggressively and they were reluctant to lower. And I still think that's part of the case. But you're starting to see some price reductions, right? And things are moving. And I think you're going to see the average days on market go up. I think you're going to see the price continue to trend down. Again, not a crash, just I think more of a correction, more of a softening where everything was just at extremes.
So it's not going to be like 08 or anything.
I think it's a completely different situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think were the interest rates to be resolved, things would start to recover very quickly. I don't think that's going to happen overnight, but I think it's just a different set of circumstances, and this affects people differently, right? And you got a really interesting thing going on though too. Anybody prior to let's say April, May, June of last year that bought a home, they've probably got really good rates, right? Now, if you're sitting on a 275 or a 325, and you're in your home, and your cost of ownership of that home, your monthly payment is $2,500, and for you to buy the exact same home 2 blocks away, let's say you wanted to move, but your interest rate's going to go up 200%. Your payment's going to go up, right?
Yeah.
So you have a lot of people that I think are just they're locked in, they're on a great rate, and they're not going anywhere, right?
Why make it?
Yeah, so you're going to have less homes hit the market because the cost to acquire the exact same home has went up,
Yeah.
So you say, hey, well, what's the benefit of cash? Well, the benefit of cash is that if I'm financing and I'm buying a $400,000 house last January, and it's $2,500 a month, and that $400,000 house today is $3,500 a month. If I'm financing, because I have to finance, it costs me $1,000 a month extra, right? Whereas if I'm a cash buyer, the monthly payment's irrelevant. That $400,000 house is going to sell. Let's say it sells for $350,000. I've literally saved $50,000, right?
Yeah.
So I can come in and be more aggressive. I don't have to worry about closing. I don't have to worry about appraisals. I don't have to worry about all these other check the box.
Done. Okay.
And then, so the interest rate is irrelevant to me. So because the interest rates have went up, it's causing the home price, again, people are payment buyers. The interest rate goes up, the house price has to go down to equal the same payment. Right?
Yeah.
So you're going to start seeing reductions. This is going to be the same way in the cars, boats, everything. Interest rates are going up in cars.
Houseboats.
People are going to start lowering their price. Dealers will start lowering their price. Pick the item because interest rates go up. The cost of finances went up. The price of the item will likely come down slightly to help offset that cost. And so the people that can pay cash can benefit from that price reduction. Whereas if you were financing, your payment would still be the same as what it was a year ago or higher, right? So one of the benefits of cash is that you can actually when you get in a situation, you can use that cash to get a better deal. Right?
Just go around all that stuff that's bogging down a lot of other buyers, I guess. So
yeah. So and then and as money starts to dry up, I feel like cash is useless, right? It's designed to go down in value, but if you can get utility out of it, if you can take and leverage into other things that are hedges against inflation, hedges against what we're going through, against recessionary times, I think it becomes a valuable tool, right? But all that's all great, but that has nothing to do with the reason I bought it. The reason I bought it is my friend Mike is he needs a place, and love him to death, but I don't think he would do it. So I'm just gonna buy it. I'm gonna fix it.
You are Mr. Beast.
Yeah. I'm gonna get it to where it needs to be. And I'm gonna say, hey man, here you go. If you would like it, here it is. This is exactly what I'm in it for. And I'll say, you can buy it for me at cost. This is what it is. And if he doesn't want to, I'll put it on the market for sale. So I think he'll take it.
You give an employee discount?
No, he's just at cost. Well, I guess I'm not gonna mark it up, right?
Yeah.
So I think and I can't. I'm not gonna say specific numbers in case this comes out before everything's done. But by the time it's said and done, if I was going to flip it, there might be another, depending on where it comes out, there might be, and depending on what the market what happens to the market, because again, it is softening. If I was to try and sell it at the end, maybe there's 40, 50, 60 grand in profit, and say what you really got to figure out is, do you really want to tie up, $320,000 to make 50 or 60 grand, right? And then wait a period of months and carry something. so that's just a personal judgment call you got to make. But I'm not doing it to do that. I'm doing it. I'll sell it and break even to him. I'm just trying to help him out, kind of deal. And
what's advice for someone who's looking to buy right now, like me? Like I don't know if I can rent anymore. I'm getting pretty sick of renting an apartment. I want to buy a house.
So there are a lot of people out there that are trying to convince everybody that renting is the way to go, right? And I think if you look, a lot of those people that are out there putting that out there, it's kind of self-serving.
They're benefiting from it.
Yeah, because they own apartment complexes.
Yeah.
Right? I understand the benefits that are pitched to people that rent. I think that that's somebody that has an ulterior motive trying to say, hey, here's why you should be a tenant. Mm-hmm. I'm a landlord. It's in my best interest if you're a tenant, right? However, I tell everybody, I disagree. I think home ownership, if you look, and I hate to get on the Dave Ramsey train, but if you look at Dave Ramsey, you look at the average millionaire and where they get their highest source of their net worth comes from their personal home. It's like a forced savings account, right? Like right now, your rent is literally thrown away, and on top of that,
just burning.
You don't get depreciation. You don't get any of the write-offs. You don't get any of the ability to the tax savings that come with it. You don't get I don't think you get the pride and ownership, which I think is valuable, right? Yeah. People have this negative thing when I say pride of ownership, but there's something.
My own thing.
Yeah, there's something about coming home to your thing that's yours, and taking pride in your home, taking pride in your yard, whatever you find, like, I think it's really awesome to see people that make it their own, like from the yard, from, like these like Zen gardens, like, mm-hmm. really taking a thing and making it yours, and you can go, oh, well, I could do that in a rental. It's less common, and if you are, you're only improving the value of the property for somebody else, right? And you're doing that, and you can take that pride of ownership, and that's fine. But at some point, you're not going to be there.
It's not yours, yeah.
It's not yours, right? And so I feel like there's a lot that I get from pride of ownership of my properties, and I go out and I work really hard, and then I come home to quote unquote my home. And
that's how you recharge too. Like, how are you gonna live the life you want if you can't even like relax at your,
Well, if you had bought, and I'll just there's a neighborhood near this office that we were buying houses that were, $175,000 to $250,000 in 2016, 17, 18. Okay. In 21 and 22, those same houses were $500,000. So had you just been a tenant, right, and you were in one of my properties, my property literally basically doubled in value in 4 years while you paid me rent every single month. So as a tenant, you're paying my taxes, my insurance, and if I had one, a mortgage payment.
Yeah.
Right? You're literally paying everything, the cost for me to own, and if I'm a good landlord, and there's some profit built in there, right? There's some cash flow, positive cash flow, right? You don't get in the business for nothing, right? You're not trying to break even. So I literally have tenants that pay the entire cost to own the property, plus pay me a little bit of positive cash flow every single month.
Yeah. All
the while, in a 4 or 5 or 6 year period, my property doubled in value. Right? Now, if you're a renter, you shared in none of that growth. All that wealth creation, it benefited you in no way. Actually, what actually happened is during that same period, the cost to rent went through the roof.
Yeah.
I continually raised your rents over and over and over again. Right? And to
continue to foot that bill, that you got to adapt for it.
No, well, that and then what's market rent? I can raise my rents and still be under market rent. Right? So if you thought it was unfair and you want to go look somewhere else, you're welcome to. But what people were finding is that I was still under market rent. Right? Because if you have an existing tenant, I've got to kind of keep up with the market, but I don't need to outprice the market. So I tried to make it to where, hey, this is a better deal than what you're going to find on the open market, but I still have to adjust the price as things go, right? And so, it's the tenant in that situation, they've got the use of the property, but they've got none of the other benefits. And so for me, I think the biggest mistake that anybody can make is paying rent long term.
Yeah.
If you were to tell me that you're going to be in a neighborhood or in a new city for 2 or 3 or 4 months and you don't know the area, you don't know where you want to live, you're trying to figure it out, or maybe you don't have the capacity to manage something if you were to have to leave the state.
Yeah.
Like if you had all these other factors, I could start to go, okay, well, temporarily this makes sense, right? Until you can figure out what a plan is and put one in place. But I don't know of a scenario with a little bit of work that you can't own something for less than you rent it for.
Yeah.
Which to me means own it, and if your circumstance changes, sell it or become a landlord.
Yeah.
Right? You let somebody else pay your taxes, your insurance, your payment, right? And a little bit of cash flow every month. And then to boot, if you don't know anything about being a landlord, hire a property management company. And again, that's going to cut in. It's probably going to be a break-even deal at that point, at this point with the way everything is. But you're breaking even, but you're also getting your tax write-offs, and you're also getting property appreciation and value over time. So, Dave gives a great example. Let's say that you went out tomorrow and you bought a $200,000 house, and his whole thing is put it on a 15-year. I think it's no more than 25% of your monthly take-home income can be used towards your mortgage. Put it on a 15-year payment and pay it off, right? And there's a couple other steps. But if you use that method and you said, okay, I'm going to go out and get a property that can be paid off in 15 years, and I'm going to put a tenant in it and just rent it. So let's say you bought a $200,000 house. The national average used to be, and I don't have a current number, that homes doubled every 16 years. That's national. And obviously you can dial into certain areas and it gets better or worse than that, right? But if you just use that national average and say, hey, the home is going to double statistically in 16 years. So you go today, you buy a $200,000 house, you put a tenant in it, you let them pay the payment, taxes, and insurance. Over the years, the rent's going to go up, right? But at minimum, we know we're going to break even. If you just fast forward 16 years, you've got a $200,000 house that's paid for, but no, it's not true because statistically it's going to be worth $400,000. So now you fast forward 16 years, your tenants have paid your home off, and you have an asset worth $400,000, right? You want to be a millionaire, do that 2.5 times.
Yeah.
Right? You want to be a millionaire, buy a $500,000 house, 15-year note, wait 16 years, right? Basically, the year after the home is paid for, put tenants in it, and statistically, your $500,000 house turns into a $1 million house. So your tenants could really, it just becomes acquire an asset, let someone else pay for it.
So, like, if so many people do this method, like so many people buy houses and then they, put them up for rent, does that make it harder for people to buy a house?
Absolutely. Well, it's not just people. Like, I'm actually not the problem. There are major, and they've backed off. They've been backing off the last.
BlackRock or whatever it's called, right?
There's a lot of companies. That's just the one that makes the news. There are a lot of companies, and it is what it is. They're doing what they do, but
what they're created to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know people that have billions of dollars in assets under management. I know them personally, and about 6 months ago, they kind of took a break. A lot of them liquidated a lot of things. They started selling things actually early 2022, and they had cleaned up their portfolio. Anything that anything they couldn't see themselves owning for the next 10 years, they went ahead and sold.
Yeah.
And most of them just are sitting on that cash, and some of them they were sitting on it long enough, and some of them have even chosen to pay taxes because if you're going to do a 529 exchange, you've got some time limits before you have a tax consequence of that. Some of them have chose to pay. That's how much they thought the market was going to fall. They felt like paying taxes was better than than overpaying for a property, right? But they're just on the sidelines. They're sitting, they're waiting, and I spoke with one of my neighbors the other day that has done hundreds of millions of dollars in the last few years in deals himself, and he's like, I'm in vacation mode. He's like, I'm sitting on my money. He said, I've been sitting on it for like 6 months. He's like, I may sit another 6 months. I may sit a year. And they're just on the sidelines. But at some point, they're going to come back in, and they're going to do the same thing they do. And their model is they buy up housing, single family, multifamily, doesn't matter. They buy up housing, and they rent it to other people, And, so if you do that, what ends up happening is that most of the single family homes in the country are going to be owned by corporations.
Yeah.
And it makes it a renter nation, which if you go back over the last 5 years, I encourage you, I can point you in a direction. I'm not bashing on Grant Cardone. He's done amazing things, but every word out of Grant's mouth is how homeownership is for suckers, right? It's the biggest expense you can have, and you should rent where you live and own what you rent, right? That's his thing. So you rent the home you live in, but what his idea is that you should own your rental properties for other people, but you should be a tenant yourself. And and so his method is he'd rather you be a tenant and then send you him money, send him your money.
I know what you meant.
Fourth time, send him your money, and that way he can invest it and put it in apartment complexes, right? And I get it. If your home is a $4 million house or $1 million house or a $500,000 house and you have nothing else, right? And you can't do any investments because you're house poor.
House is so much, yeah.
Then what he's saying is there's some truth to that. Should you be in a $500,000 house if you can barely break even?
Yeah, but that's not a renters or owners thing. It's a living within your means.
Exactly. It's a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
It's I still see value in owning where you live.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that provide value for me that are not necessarily directly tied to financial decisions. Those are just a plus.
It's that pride and ownership thing.
Pride and ownership, man. Yeah, I mean, and then how about for women? Like men, and I hate to be this way, but I'm old school. I think men should take care of women. I think they should protect women. If something breaks out, I don't expect any woman to stand in front of me and take a bullet, right? Like there's some old school part of me that thinks that men should provide for women.
Yeah.
And if women are independently provide for themselves, great, no judgment zone. In my world, I feel like I need to provide a home, right? I need to provide safety.
Like
I need
in
to
your brain, it's like a thing.
It's like this thing that I take pride and ownership, right? I take pride in being able to do that for my wife and my kids.
Yeah, of course.
Right, and so there's this other side of it, like, I got nothing against apartment complexes, but I've lived in them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a long, long time ago, and they serve their purpose. I don't feel safe in them. Right?
It is weird. It is a weird thing, dude. Like I remember the first apartment I lived in, I was like, on the ground floor. I was like, a dude could literally just like come through the sliding door. Not that I was in like a rough neighborhood or anything.
Yeah,
It was
no,
fine, and people have done with worse. But like, it's so weird how like close you are to people you don't know.
I mean, and people live, and kids live in them, and elderly live in them.
Yeah.
I mean, like they live in them. It's just a personal preference for me. I'm not a big fan.
Yeah.
And guess what? You can own condos. You can own. So basically, take an apartment complex and switch it to individual ownership, which I've done. So then you take what would formerly be an apartment and you turn it into a condo, and then now you can have essentially fractional ownership of an apartment complex, right? You can own your unit. I've done that too. I still don't like it as much as I like single family homes. It's just my preference, right? And I guess that's the key here. When you're out there in the world and you're on YouTube or you're looking at TikTok, you're watching Reels, you're on Instagram, whatever the thing is that you're grabbing, there is no right answer. I don't know entirely that there's a wrong one, right? It really just depends on what you're trying to solve.
And you moved around a lot as a kid,
a ton.
right?
Yeah, so, my dad was in the Army.
Army brat, right?
Yeah, so we were very. I tell people I've kind of like got a gypsy soul. We were very nomadic. I felt very much that our situation, and maybe it was more stable than I remember, but to me, this is how it felt.
Yeah,
it felt very much that we didn't have stability. Now,
chaotic a little.
It's very chaotic, right? In my mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially as a kid, it's like I just made friends, and now I gotta go somewhere else.
Exactly, that was a big one, right? But that served me well in business. Like I'm all over the place. Anyway, we're constantly between, at this point, probably down to like 6 or 7 states. We do business in 14, but I'm regularly in 6 or 7 states. It's nothing for me to be in multi-state per week. But I do love the stability that my home. So I have,
I have
that
was
homes.
Probably a tie-in.
Yeah, I've got homes in each of those areas that I frequent the most for my family, and and so I get a lot of. What's a good way to look at it? Like, to make an analogy, let's say you have a guy out there that's like really, or a lady that's really into cars, right? And they've got this. I'm not, so I can't even give you a good example, but they've got this 70s model, or they've got this Lamborghini, or they got this thing, right?
Yeah.
That they just love, right? And it's like a showpiece for them, right? And they
worked on it.
They worked really hard on it, right? They put it doesn't even necessarily have to be expensive. It's this thing that they take a lot of pride in.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I feel about my homes.
Yeah, it's like a confidence thing too, and then that helps you in business and life and everything. I mean, you gotta have that confidence. So,
but so for me, I think if you're renting, try to do it as temporarily as possible.
Yeah.
And the good news is nobody's taking this advice. We are moving towards, statistically, we're moving towards a renter nation.
Yeah.
People are even more so now with this shift. They're being priced out, not just total price, but monthly price. They're being priced out to where it's very difficult for them to fathom that they can own a home. But what they don't understand is that's why rents are going up. Like, they'll figure it out. They're going to have to figure out how to live.
Yeah.
But I'd rather figure it out and own the home. Right, but
that's where I'm at, man.
Yeah,
like, it's like I'll eat ramen. I just don't
dude. Well, because if you do it, if you can create a static payment, right, and your payment's locked in for 15 or 30 or however many years, right? There's even 40-year options out there. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying there are options, and you'll start to see more of those long-term options coming, so that we can so people can afford to live.
Helps you out. Like if you miss, or it's easier to pay monthly if it's a longer payment. Obviously, is that how that works?
Yeah. So let's say we're in a car dealership.
Yeah, I'm like a numbskull when it comes to
the trick that the car dealer is trying to do is get you to focus on the monthly payment and not on the actual price of the car.
Yeah, but you're trapped in it longer.
Right, but and you're paying more interest, right? So the way those simple interest loans work is that as you pay more principal, you pay less interest, right? But your initial payments are like 99% interest, right? So it takes a long time. If you're on a 9-year car loan, which I know people that are on, which is ridiculous, but you're on a 9-year car loan, right? You're 3 and 4 years in before you're really starting to touch the principal, which means those first couple of years are interest, and that's how people get upside down. That's why gap insurance is so common and so necessary. But that becomes the issue. Same thing in a home loan. Like on a 30-year note, typically at today's rates, you're going to pay about 300%. By the time if you took all 30 years and you paid the minimum payment at today's interest rates, a $200,000 home will run you $600,000 by the time you finish paying for it. Okay, so you're going to pay a lot more interest over that period of time.
Yeah,
and we could get into
amount.
A ridiculous amount. Now we could get into a different argument that I just want to very lightly touch base on this because this is a rabbit hole, but let's say go back 30 years, right? Okay. Real quick.
I'm a baby. No, I'm not even here.
but go back 30 years in the world, in the society, right? How much did it cost do you think was the average rent then?
Average rent? Damn. I bet it was like $300 a month.
Okay. What do you think the average mortgage? $400 a month, probably?
Yeah.
Right?
Probably a little bit more, 400, 500.
If you had a mortgage today, it was $400 a month. What would you?
I would be doing back. I wouldn't.
So would it matter to you?
I wouldn't be talking to you right now about this. It'd be.
Yeah, but would it matter to you that you paid $300? You paid 3x what the home was originally worth 30 years ago. My whole point here is that if you're a payment guy, and you sign up for a $2,000 a month payment, and you pay it for the next 30 years, $2,000 a month for 30 years, the $2,000 you're paying 29 years from now has less effect on you because the value of those dollars goes down, and what's going to happen is your pay goes up, cost of living goes up, all these things go up.
So you're kind of locking that thing in.
You're paying people back in the future with dollars that are deflated.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Your dollars have less buying power in the future.
Okay.
So someone could argue
that's a known fact.
Known fact. Well, I know it, and it's known by. If you really think about it, it's kind of common sense, but it's just we don't think that way, right? So one benefit,
stay the same forever. That's how
one benefit is that in the future I'm paying you back with dollars that are deflated. They're worth less. Let me flip it a different way. I just told you, hey, would you be happy if I was paying you $400, or if your mortgage was $400 a month, right? Yeah. If your mortgage is going to be $2,000 a day, but because you locked in 30 years ago, it's $400 a month, you'd be happy.
Yeah.
But do you realize you're controlling the same house that today would cost you $2,000 a month, right? So you look like a winner. But 30 years ago, $400 a month may have seemed like
idiot.
It might have seemed like a lot of money.
Because then 30 years before that, it was like 100, and it's like
So for me, real estate, if you hold on to it long enough, it kind of hides any mistakes you made.
It's impervious to that deflation.
I think over a long period of time, I think real estate has performed better than and has been more stable. And the fact that it also can provide housing, like shelter, right? So
it's weird.
It makes no sense to me. I know people today that have 50, 60, 100 grand, $200,000 in the stock market. Okay,
you can't live in a stock market.
No, but you can't live. They're renting their home, and they've got whatever in the stock market, and I don't get that. Yeah. Like for me, in my mind, I'm like, buy your home. And if you can pay cash for it, pay cash for it. If you can't finance it, I don't personally care if you do a 30-year or 40-year. I think the more you extend it out, the more evident it is you can't afford it.
Yeah.
If you got to do a 40-year loan, there's a very good chance that you're buying too much home, right? Personal opinion.
It's the living within your means thing. Again.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But so I'm not saying you got to do the Dave Ramsey 15-year thing because it can put a little financial stress on you, right? So
because if you miss a payment, it's like.
So maybe what you do is you find the home the budget that you could afford a 15-year payment, right? But instead you sign up for the 30-year one, and you just know the math of how much you'd have to pay in additional principal every month, and you make that commitment to pay it off in 15 years. But this way, you've got a little flexibility. If you have a rough month or a rough couple of months, or there's a layoff or a job change or some type of medical emergency in your family, where you've got the ability to make the lower payment if necessary, right? So maybe you sign up, but you make your buying decision based off what you could have afforded at a 15-year note. And that way, when you go ahead and commit to yourself, even if they tell you your payment's $1,200 a month, you go, no, I'm going to pay 16 because 16 pays it off in 15 years. And that's your payment, short of an emergency.
So it's not locked in. You can pay more.
That's right.
I did not.
Yeah,
dude, I'm a baby when it comes to this stuff.
No, so that's what
crazy.
I would do. I would do that. I would give yourself
smart.
some type of leeway. If you can't pay cash, then I personally see no harm in doing that at all. I mean, and again, don't overbuy. Don't be house poor, right? And if you want to do other investments and you don't own your own home, I just don't get that.
Yeah, that's
right?
crazy. Like, you can't live in gold.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, well, imagine you had $100,000 in the stock market 6 months ago, and now your $100,000's worth, let's say, $60,000, right? You're still paying rent.
Yeah.
What if you lose your job? Now you're gonna start eventually. What if any number of things happen, an emergency in your life? You're gonna pull from that cash to live, from that stock market to live, and eventually, when that money runs out, you're still a tenant.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, for me, it's like I'd much rather have the home.
Yeah.
You know, because like if you've got a home and you can provide for you, your wife, maybe children in the future or friends, you know, like it creates some level of stability, which I like. And that to me has a lot of value, lot of value. So, you know, so I just look at it a little differently. You know, I mean, if you're really an investor and you're really out there grinding and you really are forward thinking, you're not just going to stop at acquiring a home. Acquiring a home is like step one.
Yeah.
Right. But anybody that I know that's attained real wealth, I don't know a single one that thought it was a great idea to be a tenant.
Yeah.
You know, like when
I don't know any millionaire tenants.
Not personally.
Yeah.
Now I'm not going to say they don't rent things.
Yeah.
They own most of everything, but that maybe they're traveling to Aspen for a month or they're going here or there. They may rent something
different.
like that. But if you get wealthy
permanently,
yeah.
Yeah.
But if they get wealthy enough, I know people that've got 7 and 8 and 9 homes that they don't rent out. They're just their homes. You know, like
it's my summer home. It's my, you know.
I got a neighbor that's got, I think the home next to me is $17 million. It's a couple doors down, and that's like one of 9 houses he has.
Jeez, oh Pete.
You know, like I mean, and he's been in real estate for 38 years.
Yeah. That's what Maisie's trying to do too. Maisie's doing her real estate classes right now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be a sugar baby, hopefully.
There you go. There you go. I mean, if we boil it down for anybody out there that's really trying to figure it out, I think you go, well, what time's the time to get in real estate? It's always the time to get in, right? There's this big thing in the stock market. It's dollar cost averaging. What they're basically saying is there's no way to time the market. So let's say that you could commit to $100 a week. You put $100 a week every week. That means you're putting it in when it's up, when it's down, when it's good, when it's bad. You're putting money in the market all the time.
All the time, always there.
Treat your home the same way, right? Like right now, I think the time to get into the market is now. If it's 6 months ago, a year ago. I think especially if it's your home and you don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon, there's no risk.
Yeah.
Right? You need a place to live. You're going to be there, right? And over time, these temporary fluctuations in pricing are going to be a thing of the past, right? And if we fast forward 20 years, I just don't believe in any scenario in my mind that a house you bought today, a property you bought today, would be worth less in 20 years than it is today.
It's always going to go up.
Yeah, because the cost of living has to go up.
Everybody always needs a house.
Our money is designed to go down in value. Yeah. Literally, this is not a secret. It's literally that's the U.S. monetary policy. It's designed to devalue. And if you think about that from that perspective, it takes more dollars in the future to live the same life. Real estate is a hedge against inflation, so real estate works in inverse of the dollar. So if dollars become devalued, which means if $1 in the future takes $2 to have the same buying power, your $300,000 house is now worth $600,000, right? Yeah. It's just like simple, basic concept. Like eventually, everything costs more.
It's going to come, but it's going to be to your benefit.
To your benefit, right?
In real estate.
So over time, real estate's really good at hiding mistakes. If you made a temporary mistake and you overpaid for something, or if 6 months from now it's worth temporary less, it doesn't matter. The only time what matters with real estate as far as pricing is at 2 times. when you buy it, and when you sell it. Everything in between is irrelevant.
That's the measure of success.
Yeah,
and,
who cares?
Beginning and end.
Yeah, I'm not checking my properties daily. I'm not checking them weekly. Like the problem with
it's not like stocks.
Yeah, with the stock market, the issue. I've got money in stock. I mean, like, I keep from a percentage of my wealth. It's probably like 5%, a very very small amount.
And you got it sprinkled out everywhere.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm heavy real estate. I've always been heavy real estate. But
there's no Robin Hood for real estate.
Man. No, and Robinhood's awesome, by the way. Not non-sponsored, but I love Robinhood.
Yeah, I like Robinhood.
Yeah,
I've done it.
I probably own I don't know, $200,000 or $300,000 in shares, $280,000 in shares in Robinhood. I love Robinhood.
I did that GameStop thing for a little bit.
There you go. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a huge, and Robinhood's way, way, way down. Who knows? I'm not giving any advice whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I can tell you,
it's more volatile.
But I went heavy. I increased my position in Robinhood here in the last 30, 45 days strongly. I like Robinhood.
Yeah.
And the reason I increased my position is I like the way it operates. I like the way it functions. I like that they're adding features constantly.
That's why you wanted to invest in it and do stuff.
Absolutely.
You like it.
Yeah, I like it. Right. I mean, but I'll tell you the negative to any stock is that you watch it. Right. Like it moves constantly. If I watched all my properties and their real-time valuation every single day,
pull your beard out
10 times a day, like the great thing about real estate is like set it and forget it. Like if we're talking from you as your personal home, well, you know what the bare minimum is you need to be able to support you and your family, to provide housing, to provide shelter, right? To provide safety. These very basic human things that we like to do, right? This is your own personal cave.
Yeah, man cave, man.
So your bare minimum, right? And then if we're talking about from the next level, let's say you're doing it as an investment for where you're going to rent it to other people, well then now you can figure out very quickly what you're in it for, what the cost to own it is, and what you're going to rent it to somebody else. Now, the great thing about this is that it's very unlikely that you're going to be renting it for less than what you cost to buy it. Very unlikely. It can happen if you're not careful, but it's very unlikely. So, you're going to have a tenant that's going to be paying you a rent that's going to pay all those operating costs, in theory, and a little bit of cash flow, right? And so, for me, once you lock that tenant in, let's say a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year lease, longest lease in North Carolina, I believe, residential lease you can do is 3 years. Once you lock that tenant in, unless they don't pay, there's not a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
You don't worry about it. I don't even worry about rents. If they're locked in for 3 years,
that machine's just humming. You don't need that.
Yeah, I don't look at it. Yeah. I don't care. It doesn't matter, right? 3 months out, 6 months out from the final lease being up, I'm having conversations. I am looking. I'm trying to see what their intentions are. Do they want to stay there? And I do. You shouldn't do this, but I do. If they've been there for 3 years and they want to stay there for another 3, I'm not going to bump them all the way to market rate.
Yeah,
I'm going to give them. They've been there, and if they leave, there's a cost to prepare the unit for the next tenant. It costs me something, and there's a time factor, lost rent that happens during that time if it takes me 2 weeks or 30 days to execute. But there's also the sheer cost of doing those things, right? And you might have to update the unit, right? You might have to spend. It might not just be carpet, paint, etc., lipstick and rouge. It might be that
got to get asbestos out.
Yeah, well, or it's a little aged. Maybe you need to update the appliances. Whereas if the tenant's been there for 3 years and they're willing to stay there, and you don't have to spend any of that money,
they don't care. It looks the same. When they got in there.
If the market rent is if you're at $1,250 a month with them, and the market rent's $1,500, so if they're trying to shop for that same 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's $1,500, and you say, hey, you've been here 3 years. If you're willing to sign for another 3, I'm willing to bump you to say $1,350. There's still $150 a month less than the market, and I'm not having to spend any of those funds. And I got the same tenant that I've got some level of predictability that they're going to pay, right? I know what I've got. Whereas if you go out on the open market, you might get more money. You might also get a problem, right? So that's the way I look at it. So the only time I ever look at it again is when it comes time for a new tenant or a lease renewal. So then when you have a good relationship and you've properly vetted a tenant, I get one transaction a month.
Yeah.
And it's automated, by the way. So it requires no work on my part.
You don't got to go knock on the door.
Nothing, right? So so I get money and I don't worry about it. And in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years, at some point, when it comes time, maybe I'm looking at market values at that point, right? Maybe I'm looking at market rents.
Yeah.
But you kind of just set it and forget it. And I like that, man. It's very, go through your life and live your life, and whatever because if your goal is not to be, if you're not trying to be some real estate king and run some major real estate empire, or you're not trying to get in the property management business or flipping homes, like you can invest in real estate. There's no such thing as passive. That's the closest thing to passive you can get.
Yeah.
Right. And you can invest in real estate and still live your life and attain a fair amount of wealth while doing it. You know, another thing that I really like.
So what is 100% passive? What's the?
I don't think there is anything that's ever 100% passive is probably some Ponzi scheme or some person that's ripping you off. You know,
or like would royalties be like that? Okay.
Man, everything requires something. See,
yeah, but you still have to,
no, I mean, I own we own some things that have royalties, right?
Yeah,
and we have own parts of different things that produce, and that's fine. But it still requires some level of somebody has to provide oversight, right?
Yeah.
There's still got to be some checks and balances, and it's that whole fool in his money, right? If you don't pay attention to your money, someone else is. So you there is some level, and I mean, what does it take? Of all, and I don't have a lot, but of everything that I own as far as property wise, unless I'm changing something, shifting directions, acquiring new property, etc., just like the monthly, I can probably do everything I need to do in 4 hours a month. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a lot of heavy lifting.
It's pretty close to passive though, but yeah,
I mean,
it's still something.
Nothing. Yeah, but it is something, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like if you just blindly gave your money up, you could call that passive, but you're kind of flipping a coin, right? At some point, something bad could happen. So I don't know if there's something that's truly 100% passive.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being in your relationship with your wife. If you're too passive in that relationship, bad things are bound to happen, right?
Yeah.
Right. There needs to be some active.
There's got to be effort.
There's got to be some effort, right?
Yeah.
We keep it PG-13, but if you're in some type of activity with a wife, you can't always be the passive one, right? There's got to be effort on both sides of the aisle there. So
it takes two to tango.
Exactly,
right?
man. Exactly. So I think we as humans we work really, really, really hard, and then when it comes time for an opportunity, we work equally as hard, creating all these barriers for reasons we're not going to be successful.
And we make them ourselves.
Yeah, and we come up with these reasons that are deterrents. Oh, it would require a lot of work. It would require a lot of effort. I'd have to deal with tenants. Those are valid concerns, but I think that they can be overcome, right? Yeah. Identify an objection that's standing in your way of making a real estate decision. Like really dial in on what it is, right? And sometimes the real objection is a personal one. The real objection is you're not secure in your marriage. The real objection is you're not secure at the job you're at. The real objection, it's never as simple as I can't afford a home. That's such a, what does that mean?
What does it mean?
Are you paying to rent? Are you renting where you live now?
Yes.
Right. You can afford a home. It may not be the home you want.
Yeah.
Right. But you can afford a home. Right. And so then people are going to go, well, I can't qualify. Now, this is a real objection. You can't qualify, meaning that a bank will not loan you the money for a home. Right. That could be a valid objection. And what I would say is that's a valid objection, but it's not the source of the problem.
Yeah, you can fix your credit.
Right. I mean, you have to identify the challenge. Like, it's a valid objection of why you can't own a home. It's not an excuse of why you should always be a tenant.
Yeah.
What that says to me is like, hey, look, there's another problem, and this is an uncomfortable conversation you have to have with yourself or your loved one. There's another problem we haven't addressed, and the other problem is X. It's these medical charge-offs. It's these credit cards. It's this. It's whatever. It's whatever thing that's keeping my credit artificially low, right? That's not allowing me to qualify, right? And so those are things you can start to work on, right? And this goes down so many different variations, but homeownership I believe is possible for everybody. And so
might be more work for some.
It does,
than
man.
Others,
There are people in this building. We pride ourselves with all of our core staff members. We got nice things. We got the full boxing ring, the full gym, and the saunas, and the bar, and the food, and the snacks and drinks. Because these guys are out here. Our guys and girls are out here, and they're really just grinding. They really give it all, right? And there are periods where they're not home, and they're on the road all the time. So we try to create a great environment here. But the other thing that we try to do that I really think sets us apart is we try to help people. Like if you and I have a personal conversation and you say, hey man, my goal is home ownership. My goal is this. It may take me a minute because I'm busy, but eventually I make it a point to help
Hey,
you.
man, my goal is homeownership.
Yeah, there you go, right? And you've mentioned, like with your wife and stuff, and even me, like I'm king of drop the ball. Like I'm juggling, I'm dealing with what's on fire, and things that can get put off do get put off. But if you look though, I'm consistently moving in a direction. Maybe I did 15 or 20 deals last year. Maybe I could have done 30 or 40, right? But I'm still moving in the right direction, just not at the pace that I would like, right?
Yeah.
And
well, that's the progress, right?
Yeah, but last year I can tell you for sure, just my core team, half a dozen of my core team, I helped acquire either their first home or their first rental property.
Yeah.
So that was big for them. These were big celebrations for these guys, and and so homeownership became a reality for them, and they had to do the work. I just kind of helped guide a little bit. Help solve some problems. Maybe I helped them save some money. Maybe I helped them overcome a challenge or an objection that either the creditor had or.
I mean, it's like you literally described earlier. Like you bought that house. Like,
yeah.
And he's like, "Hey,
yeah,
you literally did that." Like that's
the
perfect example.
Yeah. So earlier, you guys, we were. I think Eric sent a message earlier. He said, "Hey, we're ready," and I'm like, "Oh, I had completely forgotten.
Yeah.
This is me, right? Like I've got so much going on that I will forget little things that are important because I've made a commitment to be here, right? And I was literally walking, I didn't put let me tell you how it went. I thought I liked the house. I love the area of the home. Love it. It's right here at Sedgefield. Literally it borders the very next home is Sedgefield. The home in front of it, Sedgefield. The home behind it, Sedgefield. It's very close to this office. It's right next to a Publix. It's right next to an area that they're up doing Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, Sheets.
Yeah.
And the person that I was buying this home for as well, these are the very places he actually goes. Not Publix in general. These are the physical
You're like
ones.
Ty Pennington on Extreme Makeover.
Yeah. so this home fits him. Like it's all the things that I value in a home mixed with what's convenient works for him, right? Mm-hmm. But I knew that going into it. And then I went into it, and I do a market analysis, and I see kind of where everything's at. I can kind of say, okay, well, things are trending down. I've done enough properties, and you don't just learn these things. Like you got to put a lot of time in. You got to waste a lot of money. You got to make mistakes, to figure these things out. And over time, you'll be able to do it very quickly.
You don't get it from reading a book. You got to go out there and get some bruises banged up.
Read the book, but you're going to have to go out and walk properties, and you're going to have to do it all. You're going to have to make mistakes and overpay for things. You're going to have to pay the wrong contractors and the wrong help. And on the home shows, I try not to watch them because the stress of the drama just irritates me. But like, oh no, we have to take this wall out. What are we gonna do?
Yeah,
like
they always make up a conflict.
We take walls out all the time. Mm-hmm. I have to put headers in. We got to put steel beams in. We got to lift floors. Like people that are really in real estate don't get surprised. Like they're not having this emotional reaction about these things. It's a part of it, man. Like I pretty much know going into it, and if something pops up I didn't account for, there's a variance that and every one of my deals, there's got to be some cushion, some fluff, right?
Yeah.
Because there's that what if. And and you roll on, right? And
you can't always have a stinger to the like in the reality shows. Every time something happens, or that's all you hear,
Yeah, man. Well, and they do that a lot for drama. I mean, like if you meet real people that are in real estate, real people that are flipping, real people that are buying multiple, man, they know.
Yeah, and you can always tell in those shows when they're kind of hamming it up. They're like, no, what are we going to... Like, they're not actually worried
We got this deadline. Like, I did have something happen recently. Let me give you a horror story real fast, right? Well, first to finish that thought, I made the decision to buy that house in 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Literally. Like, I had done some time... Maybe I put an hour into it prior to that. Yeah. Just checking comps, checking out the area, driving it. I'm a big fan. I'm old school. Go out and drive an area. If you got a place you can safely park, and walk the community. I don't go to anybody's yard, but go walk the road.
Check it out.
Because if it's a community that's safe enough where you see other people walking, go walk. Say hey to the neighbors. So I did. And I love it. I think hey, I would feel safe with my wife and kids there. That checks a big box for me.
Yep,
huge one. So but how much time did I actually spend in the property, inside out, everything? Sub 20 minutes. How much time did it take me to buy it? I told the guy to give me 5 minutes. I said, can I have 10 or 15? And he jokingly said something, and I called him back, and in 5 minutes, I said, here's the number. Literally.
He was like, what?
I said, this is the number. This is where I'm at. And I understand. This is the number, right? And about 12 minutes later, we had it under contract. That fast, right? You don't have to do all these crazy things, right? But anyway, what was I going to say before I got started to sidetrack? Ding ding.
Oh, we were talking about people freaking out in the
Oh
home
yeah.
shows.
So it's like the people that do that, it's so embellished. It's just like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's for TV.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it makes for good TV.
But I don't know. It's not complex, but that's one of the big things I try to do for people I care about is if they bring value to my life and this is something I have a background in, can I help them in any way? Right.
Yeah.
And really, what am I really doing? I'm just guiding them because they're the ones that got to do all the work, right? It's really their accomplishment. It's not mine. They're the ones that got to fix their credit. They're the ones that have got to make difficult life decisions to change where their money's going, right? If they've got wife and children, it's a difficult conversation to have to say, hey, because you get comfortable. I mean, what did you guys do? You've got a house. You got to rent. Obviously, you rent right now, right?
Yeah.
You don't mind talking about this, do you?
No, I don't care.
If you don't mind, what's your rent?
$1,700 a month.
Bro, God almighty. Oof.
Yeah.
Why don't you own a home?
I know. That's why I'm talking about it.
How many? So let's do it this way. Let's back up. How many years have you been renting?
We moved to Greensboro in 2019, and the first apartment we went to was like $950 a month.
Yeah, and you step up.
Yeah, and then we were like, okay, let's go to this other apartment, and then it was $1,500, $1,600, and then
so this is the other problem with
more.
renting that people don't get.
Yeah.
Renting is kind of like car ownership, and the fact that people will upgrade their cars very often, and I've noticed that renters will upgrade their homes a lot more. Right? So you have literally started off at $900 a month, and you've worked your way, you've doubled it.
Yeah.
Right? And you've worked your way into a $1,750 a month place that you don't own, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you'd bought a home that had a $900 mortgage in 2019,
man,
you'd have bought it in 2019. You'd still have a $900 a month mortgage right now, or even a $1,000 a month mortgage, and you'd own it, right? And your property would probably, let's say you at $1,000. So we estimate $600 per 100,000, right? $600 a month per 100,000. That's just a quick way, So if you had a $900 budget, let's just say that you bought a $175,000 house, okay? In 2019, there's a very, very good chance that $275 was probably worth like $425, $450 right now.
Yeah.
And you still got a $900 a month mortgage, right? So now you've got your $900 mortgage. So you're saving $800 a month in rent versus renting. That's $9,600 a year. You're living for almost $10,000 a year cheaper.
I know.
And you own it. And on top of that, the thing went up by, $175,000. Like you literally could sell it. You're living for $10,000 a year less than what you would be, and you got $175,000 that you lost. That's opportunity cost. Right? This is why I don't understand renters.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not dogging them.
No.
I'm just like, it just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, the thing was for me, I think we rationalized it like, we don't know if we're going to live here.
That's what everybody does. And then next thing you know, they blink and they've been there 10 years.
Yeah. It's like, we don't know if we're going to live here. And then now I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere else. So I'm going to stay here.
And I think if you said, hey, we don't know if we're going to be here, I think you got to really narrow that in. You got to say, okay, what factors am I questioning that I don't know if I want to be here, right? Is it your family's too far away? Is it there's no opportunities here? Like really dial it in and go, I would live here forever except my family's 10 hours away. Yeah. Well, that's a real challenge. So you need to make that decision, but you don't wait 3 years to make the decision. Like,
I know.
If you care that much about being near your family and they're 10 hours away, then you need to go ahead and make the move and go there.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like really dial in what's the objection and try to make that decision as short a time as possible.
I think the biggest one was she was in school. So we were like, oh, well, when she gets a job, we'll go somewhere else. And then she got a job here. So
yeah. And see, then that comes back to this, let's go back to it though. Let's say that in 2019, instead you said, I'm going to buy a house and you spend the same $900 a month.
I have dreams where I've done that.
Yeah. So
I wake up and
2 years later, you guys decide to leave.
Sell it.
You sell it. And in that scenario, you would have made money.
Yeah.
Or you rent it. And rents, if you look at 2019 versus 2021, what happened to rents? That $900 a month place probably would be $1,300, $1,400 a month.
I know.
By that point, maybe $1,500 a month.
It is. I looked at it a couple of months ago. I was just like, it's the same. I mean, it's not the same as where we are now, but
yeah.
I mean, it's not that big of a jump.
Yeah. So or you rent it. So 2 years from now, your situation changes. If you went back, then you made the decision in 19. By 21, you say, you know what, we're leaving, and you put it up for rent, and now it's paying taxes, insurance, and mortgage, and it's giving you $5-6 extra $100 a month.
Yeah.
On top of that, to boot, right? And if you got to set aside money for the what ifs, right? You know, AC unit goes out, service repairs, miscellaneous things, right? But just set the money aside. You know, if your tenant stays there for 3 years, you've set aside $18,000. And when they leave, if you got to spend $5,000 touching everything up and replacing all the carpet, oh well.
Got to set aside, yeah.
Yeah, you move on, right? Or you sell it, right? Like,
so can I buy a house today?
yeah, absolutely.
Would you? So it does. Like my big thing is like, and we just kind of talked about it too. I was like, oh, am I going to be an idiot for buying it now, or it's
no,
just
man.
It's always going to be.
So what matters is when you buy it, when you sell it. So the question is, let's just really, really water it down. Do you think you plan on owning the home for at least the next 5 years?
Yeah.
10?
Maybe.
Okay, then it's irrelevant what it is today.
Yeah.
Because what are the chances in 10 years the house is going to be worth less than what you paid for it today?
Yeah. Very slim, right?
But then the other side of this is that if you can buy the house for what you're already paying your rent, what are you really risking?
Yeah, exactly.
And
I hate renting.
Some other person is going to go, well, your mortgage payment's your mortgage, tax, and insurance is not the only expense with a home. What if your roof falls in? Well, you have insurance,
home insurance,
right?
Yeah, I got.
What if your HVAC goes out? Okay, that one's decent. I've done entire big homes, $500 to $7,500 for an HVAC unit, right? So if you're really like you're losing sleep at night about an HVAC unit going out, right? That's really like your big concern. Then you need to make sure that you have an emergency fund, that you save some money for when your HVAC goes out. But I would also say that when you buy the house, if the HVAC is not new, that you need to, especially at this market that we're coming into now, where buyers have a little bit more control and they have a little bit more negotiating power, you need to negotiate a $5,000 or $7,000 or $10,000 discount if it's got an aged HVAC unit, right? And plan and know that you save that money up front so that when you spend the money to replace it eventually, you can go, yeah, I had to pay for it, but I actually got the house at a sub $5,000 or sub $10,000 less because I was planning for having to buy this HVAC unit at some point.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Like, and all the homes I've owned, I don't think I've ever like, oh shit, real example. Sorry, Captain Crutch. I'll just leave it with his nickname for me instead, just in case. Real example. This just happened. We're in the middle of he bought a piece of real estate. I'm not going to say where or what it is. A while back, he's held on to it. He's had it under rented. It's under rented for an extended period of time. Okay. We have a national gas station chain that's coming in, and I'm helping negotiate not only just his property but multiple properties. They're buying them all. They're going to scrape it, and they're going to put a gas station up. Right. I'll just leave it at that. I don't know the number exactly, but it's probably somewhere like a 250% return for him, even though he's been under renting it. So all he had to do was just hold on to it, under rent it for years and sit. And now this opportunity has presented itself. He's going to make a huge return on his investment. He looks like a genius now. Yeah. Right. And this was probably a source of animosity for him for a while, this property. Well, he hit me up. He's got a tenant in his side. Yeah. Right. Yeah. He hit me up. He's got a tenant in it. And the tenant is currently late on the rent, and the HVAC and the heating unit went out. And so he had a company come out, and they're like, yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, $7,000 or $8,000 going to replace the unit. Why would we replace the unit? The people that are buying it are going to scrape it. It's going to be leveled. But she's still in there temporarily, right? Well, this is just networking connections. I've got a lot of people that I have relationships with, and I knew better. I was like, man, no, we can fix that for a fraction of that. It's going to be a temporary fix. We might get 6 months out of it, might get a year. It's not a permanent fix. It's a temporary fix. But we only need to make it about 90 days. And really, the cold season, maybe we got another 60 days, 45, 60 days of really being cold where you need heat, right? Yeah. So sure enough, had my guy go out, check it out. He came up with a solution. It was $597. I just got the invoice the other day. It's $597. We fixed the problem. It's a patch, right? And it should carry us through to closing and through everything and through the tenant being gone, and then there's no need anyway, right? Yeah. So
just enough to make it there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So like even someone like him, where he got this surprise, oh man, do I really spend $7,000 or $8,000 on a new HVAC unit? Right. There are alternates. It's never really as cut and dry as you have to do this thing, right? And so like I know people that have done that. Like real examples, people I know that it was going to be $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 replace a unit, and they had maybe a month left before the cold season was up. Yeah. So we had a different conversation. Like, hey man, tell the family to wear some clothes, wear socks, like get space heat, do something temporary.
Yep.
And the next cold season, usually, in this climate here, when do you turn the heat on? Maybe is it September, October, November?
Who
Not
knows
September,
now?
it's October, November. Like
Yeah.
when is it, right? So you go, well, hey, that next season you're going to have to. So now you've got 7-8 months. You need to
Build
set
up
aside the money, right,
Those funds.
and get those funds. And that's assuming you want to pay cash. There's so many I don't think you should finance it, but there's so many options out there if you had to. And a lot of these HVAC companies now are offering in-house financing as well.
Wow.
With some type of down payment. So I don't really.
My dad has beat it into my brain. It's like old school kind of cash thing.
Yeah.
Like that's what I prefer. It's just done.
So Parker's the one that gave that lent the Lamborghini for Evans for his little skit. The what do we call that skit? The reel?
Yeah, sketch. Yeah.
Sketch. Yeah. So maybe we can link to that somewhere here or cut to it real quick. The end where him breathing in the phone. That was funny. But Parker's the one that lent the Lamborghini for that. And what was the whole point of the story? What were we talking about?
We were talking about HVAC units. We were talking about in-house financing
This is a good
versus
point.
buying in cash.
This is such a good point, and I forgot it. See, look.
Look at us. Well, we have been going for like an hour. So.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? Parker's on the way up here, but I was going to say something. I can't remember what I was talking about.
Okay. But, where should I look for houses? Should I get on Zillow? Should I get on
all the above? Get on
matter.
Realtor.com, get on Zillow, you can get on TikTok and Instagram and all these things. So the problem is just realize that you're looking at something that's designed for everyone. It's marketed for sale to everyone, right? That you're like you're going to pay the most.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, because I'm just a dude.
Well, no, yeah, but you're marketed for sale. You're going to Walmart and you're buying a thing off the shelf.
Yeah.
Right? That is going to work when you take it home or you're going to return it and get your money back, right? But I mean, the point is that you're paying retail. If you're a retail buyer, be okay with that. That's fine. There's a lot of stress that comes with not being a retail buyer. Being a retail buyer typically means, and get your home inspection, get your survey, do all those things. Where I think you should work with a good realtor. I own a real estate company. I'm not advertising that in any way. I'm just saying I see value personally. I am a realtor and I still pay other realtors. I've got a lot of experience and I still pay other realtors and other service professionals. I still get surveys. I still get home inspections, right?
Yeah.
I've been doing this a long time. I still get a home inspection, right? Always. So, spend that money, right? And if you're a retail buyer, be okay paying somewhat of a retail price. Not saying you don't need to negotiate, but, pay a retail price so that if you're not willing to learn and make the mistakes and come in and solve problems, then you need to be willing to pay a retail price or something close to that. But where do you look? All the above. If you're, we call FSBOs. If you see a for sale by owner sign in the yard, a lot of those right now that you're seeing are people that have figured out they're upside down a little bit, and they don't want to pay a seller, right, a real estate agent, a commission because they're trying to get every penny they can, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing typically.
So watch out for
So you just got to be careful because normally a for sale by owner, at least right now, the ones I'm in this area, the ones I've called on, they're overpriced.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm doing a market analysis on them and they're high. So they're either overpriced. It's a mixture of they don't want to pay the real estate agent, or a real estate agent has told them that the house was worth less and they didn't like that advice, and so they decided to sell it themselves for more money.
Yeah.
Right? And an interesting thing here, I know of at least 7 for sale by owners that have been on the market for at least 90 days. That have been for sale by owner for at least 90 days off market. Well, the average time on the market for properties in these areas is like 17 days.
Wow.
See, what they don't realize is them sitting for 90 days on these houses,
themselves in the foot.
They lost even more money. The markets continued to fall, right? But they instead of taking a little bit of a loss 90 days ago, they've taken now. If they're going to sell, they're going to take a big loss. But I think look anywhere. That's fine. Look at all those resources, all the above. I think to save anybody out there that's looking for a home, to save yourself some time, I think define where you want to be and stick to it, right? Like if you say, hey, I want to be within 5 miles of this point, or I want to be in this community, or I want to be in this neighborhood, or hey, I love to golf, I want to be in the golf course, or hey, or near the golf course, or hey, I love the water, I want to be in the lake. You're the physical geography, like the point that you're on, the land is so much more valuable than whatever structure's on it to me, right? I buy like sunsets, sunrises, moonsets. I buy views. I buy things that if they're going to change, they're not likely going to change in my lifetime.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for, right? With Mike, with his home, I was trying to buy something that with the proximity that his life was going to be disrupted as little as possible.
Yeah.
Right? And it's near the grocery stores he goes to. It's near the places he eats, the coffee he drinks. It's near his corporate office, right? So I was looking, and he doesn't care that it's on the golf course, but I'm looking for safety. I'm looking for protection of property values. This is an area where other people want to be too, right? There's all these boxes that are being checked. Everybody's like, oh, school systems. Well, let's say you're going to put your kid in a private school, it doesn't matter what the school system is.
Yeah.
If you don't have kids, it doesn't matter what the school system is, right? If you're thinking about having kids, that's fine. The current ranking of the school system is irrelevant because I've seen school systems be 10s, right? And 3 and 4 and 5 years later, they're 5s and 6s, right? Yeah. So, the only time it matters really what the school system is if you're planning you have school-age kids that you're planning to put in that day, right, then school system is going to matter. Yeah. Otherwise, don't even worry about that one, right? So I think figure out, really dial in on where you want to be, right? Where are you going to be so that you're happy with that? Homes can be improved.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen homes that are 1,000 square feet that they've opened up the floor plan, that they've made like an indoor-outdoor space, that they've really worked on landscaping, that it doesn't have to be big, right? Like, I mean,
I don't want big.
No, I mean, like, but what's going to be more important to you is that location.
Yeah.
Honestly, like,
close
how
to
is
where
it?
we work?
Yeah, man.
Close to the city.
It's convenient to your life. It checks the box. Whatever's important to you. Like, if you like to hike, are you near trails? Are you near? Like, figure out those things that you guys like in your life that you're already, not just the things you're doing daily, but the things you'd like to do. And see if it checks those boxes. Because now, again, we're back to pride of ownership. We're back to enriching your life, enriching the life of your wife, enriching the life maybe potentially of your kids.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, like, really dialing on that. Don't just go, all the houses that I can afford that are $275 are over here, and so I'm going to buy one over there, even though I don't like where it's at, even though it's not convenient, even though it's not near. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Right? That makes no sense to me. So, maybe you got to buy a slightly smaller home, but in the area you want.
I would love a little home. Yeah. I don't want no big home. She wants a bigger house. I don't want a big house.
Anyway, so I know we went on a real estate tangent.
No, it's
and these
great.
are obviously all my opinion, but I think everyone should own a home, and I just don't know. And if you can't do it, feel free. Send me a comment, send a direct message, send an email, reach out to Seth. If you got questions, something I didn't answer, or something you want me to talk about a little bit more, I'll gladly talk about it till I'm blue.
He'll do it. He ain't lying.
Yeah. So you guys reach out, but yeah, man, go buy a home.
I'm gonna buy a home.
The time is now.
I'm gonna do it. Here we come.
Later, guys.
Ownership. See you guys
Later.